Welcome, everyone. We're excited to drive our masterclass for today, which is navigating the risk and reward of GenAI. So I'll begin with some introductions. I'm Carolina Mantarola. I'm a Principal Engagement Manager here at Replicant, working with clients every day to implement AI into their contact centers. And later in the session, I'll be joined by Janet Xiao, Senior Director of Technical Product Management at Sunrun, who works across a variety of product areas, including technology and the contact center. So we have an exciting agenda today. So over the next hour, we have a lot to cover here. We'll start by level setting on how GenAI is transforming the contact center. Then we'll discuss the considerations of different approaches to AI solutions and implementations. And we'll finally then close our slides. We'll have Janet's actual experiences implementing conversational AI into Sunrun's contact center. So we'll talk a little bit with her about her journey into conversational AI. Finally, we'll wrap up and take some questions from you all. So you can submit your questions through the Q&A feature and at the bottom of your screen or in the chat. That's fine too. All right, so before we get started, to get a sense of where people are, we'd like to kick things off with a poll. Like, what is your organization's current level of conversational AI in the contact center? So is it like no AI automation or in your contact center yet? Basic automation like an IVR, some conversational AI or chatbots to deflect calls. You are into advanced conversational AI that resolves one call flow, or you are advanced conversational AI that resolves several call flows. So there's a poll in your screen. Just go ahead and pick the one that is appropriate for you, and we'll give a minute for answers to start popping in. All right, looks like some answers are popping in. All right, so 16% for no automation. And we have a couple B and C, so 26, 29. So the majority are in there. And then we have some advanced conversational AI. So this is great. We have a great pool of different areas in the conversational AI space. So this is a great space to start with the audience so that we know where you guys are situated. So let's talk a little bit about the context of the contact center today. What we're seeing today across many of our clients is that the agent-centric contact center is failing them. And when I say agent-centric, it means around 90% of the calls are touched by agents. And around 10% are deflective with rudimentary automation. So somewhere in between the options that we saw B and C in our poll. So that's where it lies around today. There are a few reasons why this is not scalable. Attrition is high due to agents being overworked and overwhelmed. This churn and burn model makes hiring and training costs skyrocket. So in addition, the revolving door and low tenure of the agents means that the customer experience takes a hit. So when you look at self-service, a lot of the solutions out there add friction and often make your customers lose loyalty, which leaves money on the table. And all of this is happening as customers' demand continues to rise. So let's look at now, we just talked about what we're seeing in the contact center. And And the good news is that looking into the future, we see these challenges being solved. AI is already transforming the traditional service model, and it's happening at an accelerated pace. In fact, Gartner predicts that 80% of customer service organizations will apply AI by 2025. And that's just 6 months away. We're almost July, so it's here. And with the adoption of AI, we'll see some benefits. AI will reduce reliance on agents in that non-scalable agent-centric contact center model that we just mentioned. And although we see fewer agents in the future, we also see new jobs that will be created to enable AI in the customer service space. All of that means up to 50% savings in operating costs while actually increasing CSAT. So if you think back to that 90% agents, 10% deflection model we just saw, is the status quo in most contact centers today. In the future, we anticipate around 60% of calls needing an agent touch, with 40% fully resolved by AI. And this 60-40 is actually a conservative lens. And your ability will vary by industry and also by use case. Next slide, please. All right, thank you. I think I have a lag. With that accelerated transformation happening, there is a lot of AI evaluation going on. And before you start navigating the options out there, it is very important to level set on what the goal should be for conversational AI in the contact center. And that is resolution. You want your approach to resolve customer calls. So a high volume of tier 1 calls can shift away from agents, and you can recognize the full value of the technology. So a high resolution rate will reduce agent call volume and decrease the cost per contact to lower your costs. It also decreases average handle time and allows the customer to call, get what they need, and leave. This resolution actually increases CSAT with fewer escalations, and no staffing or capacity challenges also decreases agent attrition. So agents are happier. With that in mind, let's take a look at the 4 options that are out there today. So right now, with all of the evaluation happening, typically contact centers are evaluating 1 or more of these options. The pressure continues to implement AI. So we have a lot of players in the arena. I'll get to each one in detail, but at a high level, the options are in-house custom build, add-on to your CCaaS platform, point solutions, or a strategic partnership. Success for most contact centers will be definitely by their ability to navigate these options. So let's get into what you should consider for each one and the risk and reward for these routes. So first of all, we have the in-house custom build. So think of this like a platform like Google Dialogflow or Amazon Lex. Building a contact center solution from scratch does provide control over the features and functionality. However, it comes with the risk of underestimating the complexity of the project, and this leads to cost overruns. Then there's the maintenance and updates piece of it. It becomes the sole responsibility of the organization, which can be resource intensive over time. So additionally, for DIY, achieving the same level of accuracy, security, and expertise as a dedicated solution provider can be challenging. The bottom line for this one is that this approach is usually reserved for organizations with dedicated AI budgets and teams, and that they have the willingness to plan and wait for long development and test cycles. Next. Perfect. The second one is, if you decided the in-house route isn't for you, another popular take out there is purchase an AI add-on to your CCaaS platform. And add-ons on or bold solutions are definitely cheaper from the investment end. And you're also working with a familiar vendor. You already have that relationship. Although it is cheaper, the gains will also be less because you won't get the same resolution rates. Many organizations start by seeing what's available out of the box from their CCaaS provider, but their technology falls short of resolving anything except the most basic calls. And there are two reasons for this. Number one, they're not AI experts. And number two, the pricing models often incentivize having more agents use their platform. So shifting the volume away from agents is not really a priority. This typically leads to limited performance and a gap between the promise and the reality of AI. So next slide, please. If you're looking for specialization, you might also be considering point solutions. Like many of the new AI startups that have launched off the back of ChatGPT over the past year. So implementing GenAI through any recently launched point solution can be enticing, especially when you look at the flashy demos that we're seeing circling around. However, these startups often carry the highest level of risk. So to separate the claims from soft substance, when discovering this, you should ask questions around performance metrics. So what are the complex use cases, conversation design, what's the support level, and seek case studies during evaluation. The primary risk of less proven point solution centers, it lies on reliability and unpredictability. So for enterprise contact centers, not knowing how an AI solution will perform, or what will it say to customers, and how will it decide the best course of action for each request, it will make many solutions in this category non-viable. Next slide, perfect. So finally, there is a route that we would recommend, which is a strategic partnership with a conversational AI partner that has proven results and expertise. The primary advantage is mitigation of risk and speed of implementation. So experienced partners have well-established pre-built solutions that can be quickly integrated into your existing infrastructure with proven resolution rates. They come with conversational design, dedicated success teams, and require minimal resources from your end. This leads to faster time to value and immediate access to advanced features and functionalities. Additionally, relying on a trusted partner reduces the risk with security measures, ongoing support, updates, and maintenance. However, the only downside is you do have to onboard a new vendor, which may require contracting and vendor registration. So that can be tricky sometimes. So right now, right now we have Janet from Samrun with us today to speak about her journey to AI automation. So let's get into a little bit of the story. Janet, hi Janet, thank you for being here with us today.
Hi Carolina, thanks for having me.
Yeah, always a pleasure. So So talking about the contact centers and their struggles, like, can you share with us the initial challenges that Sunrun faced in its contact center that led to this decision to implement AI and automation solutions?
Of course. So I think I would back up and just give a little bit of background on Sunrun as well, so people can have the full scope. So Sunrun is the largest residential solar company in the U.S. And when I first joined Sunrun, I had no solar background, and I was like, "Oh, it's probably like buying a car." No, it's not like buying a car. It's like a custom construction project, basically, that is heavily regulated by utility companies and like state legislation. So it is a very, very complex purchase process. And then from a payments perspective, the majority of Sunrun's business is basically leases or PPAs. So that's where Sunrun owns the system and the customer pays Sunrun monthly for the production that's generated on that solar system. So for us, initially, when we're thinking about how do we leverage GenAI and how do we really kind of get with the program here, previously the Sunrun is very high touch because it is such a complicated product and process. Um, and when we looked at, okay, we have a very high contact rate, and then how do we, from a call volume perspective, and when you break it down into different buckets, which bucket is the biggest? And unsurprisingly, it is billion payments. And then looking further, double clicking into that bucket, the one that really had the least interaction complexity was payments. So customers have to pay. Customers are used to paying online and on apps and over the phone. And we do have self-service on our customer app and online as well. So we wanted to make sure that our care system would also be aligned and consistent with the rest of the self-service capabilities that we have. And when we think about that, there is also like a desire sometimes for contact centers to serve the customer. So this is like if there is a selling opportunity or if there's an opportunity for Sunrun to better articulate their value to the customer, then we actually want a live person talking to them, talking to that customer because it kind of builds that relationship. But for billion payments, it's not one of those cases. So it was very clear that that from an initial use case standpoint, that payments, specifically one-time payment, was our first use case. It's the most direct, most discreet, the most straightforward, the least risk. And we wanted to make sure we got that out the door, and then we like kept on that journey of what other use cases on payments could we leverage our relationship with replicants. So one-time payment launched in November. We then launched autopay. So this is the ability for a customer to enroll in autopay. And there's standalone paths where you can just enroll, or if you pay a one-time payment and then you enroll. I don't really care how you enroll. I just want you to enroll because then you do have higher CSAT and lower default rates with that. And then we've worked on after hours to make sure that customers can still pay their bills whenever they want, not when our call center is open. And then finally, we are embarking on our next phase of payments, which is Spanish.
No, definitely. Awesome. I love this use case for automation and how you went from choosing from the wide variety of the use cases that you have to this one. It is a great example of how you empower your agents by automated and repetitive tasks that can be completed by a thinking machine,
Sure.
and you're letting them take over the most complex cases. So
Yeah, I want agents to talk to customers when there's a need for them to talk to customers versus I think neither the customer nor the agent wants to handle something like payments because it is so straightforward and routine and known. So I think that this was a win-win on all sides.
no, perfect. This is great. And then talking about like your journey with AI, in your experience, what are the main advantages and disadvantages of building the AI solutions in-house
Mm.
versus purchasing external solutions? And what made Sunrun go for a partnership with Replicant?
Sure. So from an in-house perspective, I'll start there. The advantages are that like we own that team, right? And you can make it as customized, as shiny, as niche as possible. And then I think the other benefit would be that an in-house team would probably have a better sense of um, our user base, the personas of people of our customers, and also the specific use cases. Like if we think about Sunrun, we operate in many different states. Um, we're in Costco and Lowe's, and those customers are a little bit different than our standard customers. And like a customer that has a PG&E utility is a different customer type than that one that has ComEd, right? And because all of their systems and their intricacies are a little bit it's dictated by that utility company. So I think that if we went in-house, that level of detail and nuance is already known, so we don't have to kind of onboard that for folks. The risk or the pitfalls there is it's money, right? Like to build out an AI team, that's not cheap. Those are bodies that we have to uh, recruit, retain, pay, and then also the time it takes for internal sometimes is a lot longer than when partnering with experts that already do this for a living, right? And I think finally, a thinking machine isn't built overnight. So thinking through how to build out that AI model, what are the inputs and the levers that you want to pull, that is it. If we had that already in-house, then that's one thing. But I think that to build it from the ground up would have been a level of investment that we weren't able to kind of commit to. Um, if I talk about external, the way I see a strategic partnership with AI, with someone like Replicant, is that you're basically supplementing my development team, right? Like my development team should be partners with the development team on Replicant so that we are having daily conversations, seamless handoffs. Um, I think at this point, some of my developers are probably friends with some of your developers. And I think that especially when you find a partner who has an expertise in AI already, is committed to your success, and is also really willing to give you that ongoing support, then that's a win for Sunrun in general. And even though, yes, there are contracting costs, and yes, there are ongoing costs because we continue to use the thinking machine. I believe that if you kind of do the math, it is less overall cost than building a team in-house.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then your automation becomes part of our use cases. So we're definitely invested with you and your team and the success of your journey. So that's where we're in it day in, day out. And yeah, to your point, like we do become like a one team together. And precisely as we looked in some of the slides and the DIY requirements, I think you perfectly sum it up. Like this costs at a high cost, not only to build it, but to keep the implementation enhancements and even maintaining it for the long
Yeah.
run.
I think maintenance is one of those things that people forget about, right? People get really excited about product launches and then, yay, it's out in the world. But actually, how that product evolves and grows and optimizes over time is just as important as that initial launch, because that's what oftentimes products fail is you don't actually maintain it over time.
Yeah, totally, totally. And then it's just like as we've seen in your implementation, like when callers become more accustomed to the use case, it starts to shift. So that's
Mhm.
where the part comes in really good. So yeah, and then you talked a little bit about like, the payments was a very straightforward use case, but how did Sunrun identify that this use was the initial one that you wanted to use for conversational AI?
Sure. So I think the two main criteria that we looked at, one was around call volume, and one was around interaction complexity. So if I think about every reason a customer could call us, um, I don't think I would leverage something like a customer calling in about their system not working, for example, as a first use case, because that means that AI would have to be able to ingest telemetry data and solar production and power and energy and usage data to try to knit together a story to spit to the customer, right? Like that doesn't resonate as a great automation case. For us, like if you, again, if you look at like call volume, billing and payments is our number one call driver. Oftentimes customers are not calling specifically to pay. Sometimes customers are calling because they're confused about their bill, or there are cases where customers will get both a Sunrun bill and a utility bill, and that causes a lot of confusion. So, but if we double click into those billing and payments reasons, payment is still a high call driver. Our average customer base is like about 60 years old. So we want to make sure that we have all the self-service channels available for that customer, because calling to pay is, for maybe a Gen Z, is not a real thing, but like for my audience, for my customer, it is. Especially if we look at some of our some like Puerto Rico, and some of Puerto Rico is a great use case for customers calling in as well. So so I think when we look at, okay, big call volume, there's a lot of call volume related to payments, and this use case doesn't typically require that finesse that we're talking about of a human to kind of guide that customer through the experience. In fact, it's one of those experiences where we want to make it as efficient and seamless and intuitive as possible. Then those two items together kind of coalesced and made payments very clearly be the first use case for Sunrun to leverage Gen AI with Replicant.
No, like I love it because it's exactly, you're aiming for those high volume, low complexity use cases, which is usually a great first step into conversation AI. So you did wonderfully in choosing payments, and it, like, the yields of the resolution, it's really important. So I'm just wondering, like, what other tools are you using, and what was the process like for integrating Replicant with your current stack?
Sure. So the tools that, I mean, we use a ton of tools, but the ones relevant for this use case specifically is we use CX1 for our IVR. So we wanted to make sure that there was a very seamless transition between a customer being routed and being authenticated within our IVR, and then talking to the thinking machine. And then also our payment processor is CyberSource. So gathering the customer's information, making sure that's encrypted and safe, and then passing it to that payment processor to process, and then making sure that it also reconciles. And our ERP is also kind of the end-to-end path that we were looking at. Those would probably be the main two, but if you wanted details on other integrations that we have within our call center platforms, then we have access to that as well. I did want to maybe answer Casey's question in chat, if that's
Okay.
cool. So Casey, from how engaged was you, so the question is, during the sales process from Replicant to Sunrun, how engaged was your CFO in evaluating the ROI of the solution and getting aligned to the overall solution? So I don't think it was as much as my CFO, as the two folks that were really involved were I would call them the sponsoring organization. So in our case, it's the experience. I have a chief experience officer, and then also my CTO. So those two were probably the main folks I had to get on board. And one of the reasons why, another reason why payments was a great use case is that because it's so discrete, we know exactly how much handle time it is, exactly how many calls are already being handled by agents, and then you can do the math of the cost savings from which CFOs would care about, but where like in how the agent time is being reduced for this use case and being applied to other use cases. So that was some of the compelling data that we were projecting and also offering as part of the sell, quote unquote, to onboard Replicant for this use case.
Right. No, thank you. It makes it easy to, numbers speak volumes. So I think this is great. And going back to the tech stack that you were mentioning, I think that's the beauty of a partnership where we can integrate and enhance your current tech stack, without disturbing your overall day to day. We're just, enhancing what you have.
Sure.
That's great. And so now that you've been live for a while, and out of the payment calls that Replicant receives, what percentage is Replicant resolving, and
Mm.
you elaborate a little bit on how it has impacted Sunrun's contact center operations and also your customer experience?
Yeah, of course. So I think our success rate is sitting around 45%. So that means of payment calls coming in and the thinking machine talking to it, 45% of calls are being resolved with no agent intervention. Um, I think that started out around 40. The thinking machine did a lot of optimization to get it up to 45. We have opportunity potentially to increase that as well. Um, but I think that we also make it very easy for customers to escalate and talk to an agent if they want to, because we don't want to block customers from talking to us if they still have a question that is not payment related, but they called initially for payments. Um, the other thing that we're looking at is that number actually could potentially also go down because we're also thinking about how can we increase the funnel of calls hitting the thinking machine in the first place. So by doing that, there's a potential for that ratio to go down, but it means more volume for us. So I think the way that our organization is looking at Replicant's integration from a payments perspective is that it is very, very successful. We actually want to figure out how to like expand it more. So the reason why I would say it's success is our CSAT is sitting at 4.5, 4.6 for calls, which is phenomenal, right? Our average handle time is greatly reduced. So again, when I was talking about how this is a use case where we want customers and agents don't want to sit on the phone for this use case, right? Like we want to get it resolved as efficiently as possible. The bot is doing that for us. So with that, like our call volume hitting agents is down, our customer lifetime value is increased. So that's an important metric for us, and that also translates well into NPS, which is also a super important metric for us because that has a direct correlation to things like referrals, which is a big uh, lead driver here at Sunrun. And then last but not least is because of auto pay integration, we've also been able to increase our auto pay sign up rate, which is super important for the business. The CFO does care about that one because there's a direct correlation between auto pay sign up and default rates going down. Yeah, so I think those are the major the major KPIs that we're keeping track of. But in answer to your direct question, it was 45%.
No, no, this is perfect. Like I love it. It's a great story to tell. And like Sunrun now has officially graduated from the agent-centric contact center for this use case into like the AI contact center where 45% of the calls are contained by the thinking machine. So with
Sure.
no interaction. So
Um, there's a bunch of questions coming through. So let me hang on. Let me give it a second. David, 45% of calls that are payment related and hit the thinking machine are resolved by the thinking machine without agent intervention. So that's an answer to your question. Do you have a use case study yet on KPI improvements with Mike? I feel like this conversation is that case study. We should probably write it down as something more formal, but I think that Sunrun is largely very happy with the integration with Replicant for this use case, and we think of it as largely a success and want to figure out how to expand the funnel to make more customers get access to that bot. John, I would have to go back and ask my peers to answer this question on what other conversational AI solutions do you look at? There's a ton out there, right? But I think that ultimately Replicant gave us a compelling value proposition in terms of being that strategic partner, making sure that we're aligned on outcomes and it also invested in our success. And then also that ongoing support is something that we deeply care about. So ultimately those are reasons why we picked Replicant out of the bunch. What has the impact been related to your agent? Do you have a metric on the type of activities they're now engaging in? So Nathan, I think the answer to this question is more around we would see a shift of agent calls that are being handled by agents versus being handled by bot. So I would still expect overall call volume to like the buckets to be similar in terms of payments versus appointments versus whatever the other buckets are, right? But I think within the payments use case, then you'll see the split between agent handled calls versus bot handled calls.
Yeah, and I can probably take the last one, Janet. Why aren't the other 55% of calls being successfully resolved by AI? So remember, we'll have a Q&A session at the end as well.
Oh, great. Okay.
That's a great question. And like Janet mentioned, like we don't want to trap callers into the call flow. And also it depends your level of how many times you want to reprompt to keep them in the flow. I think for this use case, we want to be as efficient as we want. So we're very strict on when somebody mentions an agent, we just send them to the agent. And there could be other reasons they're here in these IVR because of billing questions and not necessarily for payments per se. So it depends on every use case out there. So there are some other use cases that have higher resolution rate by the AI, but 45%, it's an amazing result from containment. So now looking at like in the future, like how does Sunrun plan to further leverage AI to drive efficiencies and enhance some customer satisfaction?
Yeah, so I think we just kicked off our last round, our last iteration of the payments use case, and that is Spanish. So Sunrun operates in 20 states, and a lot of our business is California, and we'd also have a very healthy business in Puerto Rico, and other, Spanish is a very common language. So I think I mentioned earlier as well, we do find that Spanish speakers are um, a good candidate for calling in and paying their bills via phone. So I think that getting Spanish up to the same level as English, lots of other companies that are US based, you handle the English use case and then Spanish becomes an afterthought. And we wanted to make sure that Spanish, at least for this use case, was handled just as well as our English use cases are. So Spanish should be kicking off in the next month or so. From a dev perspective, we've already done the formal kind of scoping exercise and kickoff. And then after that, I think what we're looking at is we do have a call assessment plan with you guys in terms of relooking at our volumes and identifying what other potential future opportunities there are. Like we are always looking at ways that we can improve self-service, improving self-service not only improves the not only improves like what contact center agents efficiency is, but also CSAT and customer satisfaction, right? So if there are other use cases that are similar to payments in that they have high impact and they're pretty straightforward and low interaction, and it's not viewed as like, oh, we want this to be a selling opportunity or a confidence building opportunity, right? Then absolutely, like I think we would look at how to identify future partner cases, future Gen AI cases, so that we could better partner with Replicant going forward.
Awesome, awesome. I love the Spanish flow because that's the cherry on top of the payments flow. It's just basically a nice, like you said, same offering, same level of customer service for all
Sure.
of your customers. And then, yeah, my next question was going to be something that you already touched a little bit on. So it was like just looking ahead, what are some of the key objectives and priorities for Sunrun and leveraging AI? So
Yep.
and just like into your center, like the contact center operations and customer service offerings. So I think I'm really excited for this call assessment because it's a great underline of our partnership to work together, identifying the next conversation AI to implement. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that you're thinking from operations or customer services offering.
Absolutely. And I think Sunrun's a little bit special in that it's not just one call center or one call center type. It's not just customer service. So like we have a very healthy field service business, for instance, because if the system is owned by Sunrun, then there's generally a performance guarantee associated with that system. So let's say there's a big hailstorm and one of your solar panels gets damaged, then there's a whole other contact center that handles those kinds of calls versus like billing and payments. So I think that looking at multiple use cases would be beneficial there.
Nice. Yeah. I'm really excited for the future of the Sunrun journey. And yeah, I really appreciate you being here with us, Janet, and sharing the Sunrun's journey with Conversation AI and the partnership you have with us. So thank you very much, Janet.
Yeah, of course.
We'll see you in the Q&A. All right. So can we bring back slides? Perfect. So thank you, Janet. We just spoke a lot about Replicant with Janet. So we want to provide an intro on Replicant and what is it that we do. So Replicant utilizes AI to handle customer calls and contact centers through natural conversations, aiming to resolve high call volumes without any agent involvement. So this approach focuses on managing call volumes directly rather than deflecting them. And the intended outcome of using Replicant includes decreased operational costs, reduce agent attrition, and improve customer satisfaction by addressing all of these five aspects that you see on your slide. So all of that is simultaneously done through Replicant. Next slide, please. So Replicant is the only solution that is designed to maximize call resolution. We're the only ones that combine leading technology with the expertise required to implement effectively and optimize that call resolution. So while others in the market struggle to resolve up to 20 or 20% of the calls, we resolve up to 80% of the calls. So that's depending on your use case and industry. So that's the range. So we have on the technical front, we've built a technology that uses the latest generative AI technology to converse with callers, just like a human agent would. So it's trained and validated over 500 million minutes of live conversation. And this delivers. So we have the highest accuracy. Our proprietary application of GenAI uses multiple models to maximize accuracy on every conversational turn. This increases the percentage of calls that can be resolved without escalation to an agent. We also provide a human-like experience for callers. We optimize our AI models to reduce conversation latency between our AI and your caller. And we provide our AI with natural sounding voices. This builds trust and confidence in the experience for callers, which minimizes escalations and hangups while providing improving CSAT. So we're enterprise ready. We provide enterprise-ready control on how AI responds to callers, minimizing AI hallucinations. And that could be costly for your business and protecting bad actors that might attempt to exploit security vulnerabilities. So we're very cognizant of that, and we have very defined guardrails to avoid that. We also assembled the best team of conversational design experts to implement conversational AI for our partners. So think of this as technology plus art is what leads to high resolutions. So I am part of that team, so I could speak for hours, but I'm just going to keep it to the point today about that. So everyone on our delivery team is based in North America, and we configure the platform to maximize resolution across complex call workflows. So there is no specialist development work required by your team. So it's a little bit like how you wouldn't want someone who has never worked in a contact center train one of your human agents. You wouldn't want someone who has never implemented AI design and conversation design to be ready to interact to your callers. You wouldn't leave that in the hands of someone without experience. So without the conversation design experience, even the best AI technology will struggle to replicate the performance of a human agent. So with our customers, we have seen effective conversation design drive as high as 65% relative increase in resolution rate, with everything else about the underlying technology remain constant. So it's a huge demarcation from what the art can bring paired with the technology. So this impact comes from the years of experience we have implementing hundreds of use cases across our customer base. And finally, through the combination of our leading technology, leading team, and experience implementing hundreds of conversational use cases, we are able to drive the fastest time to value in the market with the ability to start automated customer conversations as little as 6 weeks. So that's the fastest time to impact that we have. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about that art part of the conversation. We have the technology and then we have the art part. So when we think about conversational AI, we might not think of the whole picture. So visualize conversation design as an iceberg. We only see the top of the iceberg, which is, in this case, we're thinking only about the scripting. What are the phrases to use? What might the responses be? What we don't see is everything that's below the waterline, which in this case is the rest of our secret sauce. So we have transcription and hinting. What model do I use for what kind of turn to deliver the best results? And what kind of insights do I need to provide to that model so that it should know what to expect? So how do we know what to expect from a customer? For example, if we're connecting an alphanumeric spell out, how do I make sure that the model understands that A as in alpha, A as in apple is the same thing as simply spelling the letter A? That's all baked into our platform. Then we have fallbacks and repair paths. So for some use cases, the importance of being to switch channels is crucial. Sometimes voice is not the best way to collect information. So how do you allow someone to receive an SMS flex form and easily fill out the information and break the barrier of things like getting a location pinpoint, which is hard to collect even for a human agent when the member doesn't know where they are. And lastly is the flow design. How do you structure the conversation in a way that is highly effective? Do you add yes or no questions? Do you add more open-ended questions? What questions go first? So, this is the balance that we have. Next slide, please. Thank you. And it's a combination of design with the superior AI and natural sounding voices that delivers the kind of results you heard from Janet earlier. So resolution rates in the 40% plus range, conversation success at 70% and above, all with much lower handle times. So we see on average that this kind of conversational AI can handle the same type of conversation in about 50% of the time that it takes an agent. So this is not just advantageous from a cost standpoint, but massively advantageous from a consumer standpoint who doesn't want to spend half of the time on the phone trying to get their issue resolved. They just went in and out. So these results that we talked about are not outliers. We are trusted by leading contact centers across industries and have an NPS of 65 across our customer base, which is the top 1% of software companies. We're designed to consistently deliver results for enterprise contact centers and are compliant with the most stringent of security standards, including SOC2, GDPR, HIPAA, and PCI. We are so confident in our track record of success and our ability to deliver results that we're the only vendor in our space to offer 100% risk-free investment. If we haven't met your expectations in 45 days, we will refund the cost of your purchase. I would like to have some of that in my day-to-day purchases. So we've discussed a lot today. So let's bring it all together. And when you think about navigating the risk and reward of AI, here's what we learned today. The risks are highest when going with a DIY or experimental approach. So you have difficult and costly to deploy. It's very resource intense to maintain. There's vulnerability to hallucinations and the inability to handle complex calls. There's also the unproven security and reliability for enterprise businesses. And there is a lot of upside and reward when going with a strategic partnership. So you save 50% plus in operating costs. You resolve 40% plus of calls without agent intervention. You decrease your average handle time, increase your CSAT, and reduce agent attrition. So before we turn it over to Q&A, we wanted to show you a taste of what a great conversational AI would look like and how does Replicant work.
Thank you for calling Countryside Insurance. I'm a thinking machine on a recorded line. I was able to locate a policy linked to this phone number. Am I speaking with Benjamin?
That's me.
Perfect. I have your policy right in front of me. How can I help you today?
I've got a problem.
So I can resolve your issue. Can you tell me more about the problem?
Yeah, I got in a fender bender on Highway 24 near the Trinity Lane exit. I drive a gray Honda, and this other Tesla just clipped me. It was a total hit and run.
I understand you were involved in an accident. Are you currently in a safe place?
I was able to pull into a Love's travel stop.
Okay, let's help create a claim right now. Are there any injuries?
We're all fine, thank you.
It's good to hear that there were no injuries and that you are in a safe place. To complete your claim in less than 4 minutes, I'll need to collect a bit more information. I heard you were driving a gray Honda. Is that the one you have on file?
You got it.
If you have it, what's the license plate of the other vehicle?
Let me find it.
Sure, I'll hold.
So my dash cam caught it, and it's a California plate. It's X is in X-ray, Y is in Yellowstone, 8756.
I got a California plate XY 8756. Is that correct?
Actually, it's X as in X-ray, Z as in zebra.
That's XZ 8756, right?
That's the one.
Thanks. Just a few more questions. Were there any passengers in the vehicle?
My partner was in the passenger seat, and we got a toddler in the back.
Are you able to send me a photo of the damage to the vehicle to assist with your claim?
I'm happy to.
I'll text you a link. Please open it and attach photos of the front, back, and sides of the vehicle. I'll be here if you have questions.
All right, so I've got the link, and I'm going to open it up, and I'll take a photo of the front of the vehicle, and the side of the vehicle, and the back of the vehicle, and the other side, and send that in.
Thanks for submitting the photos. Would you like to schedule a repair at an authorized car service center?
I better do that. My ride is looking pretty bad.
There are 2 options based on your current location in Nashville, Tennessee: Fred's Auto Repair and Music City Motors. Which would you prefer?
Who can see me the earliest?
Music City Motors has availability tomorrow morning at 9 to drop off your vehicle. Would you like to book it?
Does my policy cover a rental car while my vehicle's in the shop?
Yes. As a Platinum member, you are entitled to a complimentary rental car while the repairs are being made. You will have to book the rental using the credit card we have on file. Would you like to verify that card now?
Let's do it.
Just so you know, we won't be recording this next part of the call while I take your payment details. I see a credit card on file ending in 98A4. Can you please confirm the 3-digit security code on the back of the card?
Yes, 376.
Thanks. Your card has been verified. Would you like to complete the booking tomorrow at 9 for Music City Motors?
Please and thank you.
Your booking is confirmed. A confirmation message has also been sent via text and email. Have you contacted the police to file an incident report?
No, I haven't, and it's not something that I've done before. I'm actually feeling a bit shaken up. I wonder if you'd be able to transfer me to someone who can help.
Sure. Please hold while I transfer you to a representative. They will have a full record of this call.
All right, so that's the future. That's really the future of what these conversations are going to look like. That was a 4-minute call, but I don't think it felt like that. I mean, it felt fast, it felt accurate, it was very contextual, and you see with the AI handoff that it's a really seamless, you're getting the savings of that average handle time when the agent picks it up.
Awesome. I love to see the thinking machine interacting, and with these new voices, customers really do open up and just share a lot more details than just a yes, no, very boxed answer. So we do have a little bit of time. We're out of time, but I do want to answer David. So his question is, in Sunrun using Replicant for incoming calls or making external calls too? So right now, Sunrun is only doing incoming calls. We do have other use cases that perform outbound calls to clients. So we get a trigger from you, and then we perform the outbound call. So we do that with a number of use cases from dispatch to keeping members informed. All right. So I want to thank everyone for your time today. And thank you, Janet, again. So it was great having this conversation and getting to explore your journey with GenAI.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.